냠제 전부도 유미종 또는 전부가 자다 다그러 다른 전도 실문도 또만 제자라기 숑살.
To liberate sentient beings, please generate the supreme bodhicitta before we start today's teaching.
Chiv chimti dogbo tenyado shindar number tajan gonande tenati tuba dabka dartar shibajan namasipe zemo zembak tagla chagbablo zemo gawagam rapta chagji chagnyji de tu dabka shiba chigan da dagan nirda tsigjan chizu manjir var dabka varnam rapta tarshi shir kimti nangdam nirda jignes tela tena kimji Nibjote Dungar the Thomas Riki, Semjer Namba Manja, Menda Dungar Chembo, Tadjang Shira Chig, Jurisdiction, Doctum, Semal Novian Tang, Teta Mambuni, Chief Yang Tadan Wada Chiang Ma, Shergo Tadjang Kazation, Sura, Tinjavan, Na, Mani, Mimi the Zayan, the Mavzadan Jew, the Yukon, Kunda member te, the Natintis de Huram Bajiko, Tertrishipi Lochen Tevjante, Jonor Namna. Stedmore Avenue, Pe, Pai, Guba, Telam, Semte, Tetakin, Jimyam, Tesikia, Te, Semba, Vosher Semba, Donna, Dungerate, Dagavadan, Rjetta, Mepar, Menda, Ina, Tsunamaron, J, Tina, Tapsam Bar, Zedmoga, Shiban, the Chate, Donner, Zedmoga, Jean, Meda, Kiemanda, Star, Shiba, Linjarmon, Telate, Meba, Jon, Nun, Jombarnamba, Sumbo, Ngala, Yoda, Radan. Radan Lambo Rotterdam Chulese, Zojan, Chesam Tona Labra, Jambata, Kembi, Jur, Nana Teta, Yoto, Shurum Joatela, Gubacho, Chesarnam Gishirning, Nishi, Tela Gavar Hanchi, Shurtunji, Jombatinda Yopra Shines, Tetsunji Samte, Rangarane, Ye Moba Tam to the Shur, Toner, Dehur, Tale, Tarte, Donringer, Made Shiba, Humber, Tonis, Wiki Pom Sar Nebana, Sanketalandic Nete, La Me, Jemangan Terra, Nyonde, Ayakavar, Nepa, Nyomota, Virginishan, Sninga, Kio Mambo Kansing Jigba, Ye, Dedamas of Donkey, Donkey, Kemnan, Koda, Ganambarza, Messi, Tonga, Gan, Teta, State Monga, Changerapa, in Terran, Teta Tarshi, Deving Adam, Yang, Dangerapa, Patti Devan. Run is Shiba de Hane and Darkader me, Jomba Yutagon Assambo, Nam Yapki Sombabjan, the Dagasura, Jumba Nabassambo Kiki, Yapkin, Kemter Ganson, Ba, Gate, Tamchet Men, Tan and Dundee, Tan and Dundee, Lela, Wapki, Tersurba, Madame Zokim, Tadam, Dambarte, Serdan, Gardan, Noro, Matu, Dan, Jandam, Drum, Tanam, Manuve, Jumba de Namba Nazo. Langalang Tajinba, Nimada, Lomji, Driver, Yerki, Tavena, the Jam Santaki, Labar, Jana, Matikana, Nora, Tave, Yo, Sergi, Meto Namji, Chawadan, Chodam Shunda, Jan, Rapta Chevi Kuji, Teo, Te, Karavzam, Chui, Reznam, Shinda, Tan, Tena, Tevino Shapi, Tarnam Tan, Shang State, La, Shang Valam Chogyam Tan, Kurap Kodam, Kurum Kodam, Vamchong, Pim San, Shia, Chokton Riva, Yijan, Yo, Renchin, Shangsta, Jebate, La, Lambo, Garjan Sola, Stoptan, Dana, Dijan Shindong, Wonyan Che, Jeva Tambataka, Rapta, Tena, Jeva Tena, Vernam Tamchita, La, Testi, Shangstam Chokjante, Tina Teta, Gajan, Ranes, Chodom Chonsam Kunda, Stenjan, Division Chong, Ai, Shariva, Semjanam Japtan, Payan, Chogchanda, Tamchit, Aiva, Shibatana Council, Dola Chega, Council, Tana Kambate, Danda, the Hoshem, the Muzil Yaich, Navatana, Gavatama, Ye, Mali, Tamchit, Najan, Raptam, Barangan, Council, Tale, Tar.
Today we will continue our in-depth discussion of the profound teachings found within the Lotus Sutra, a truly pivotal and revered scripture in Buddhist tradition. Previously, we extensively talked about the compelling and illustrative parable of the elder whose magnificent house tragically caught on fire, a powerful narrative that serves as a foundational element for understanding the deeper principles we are exploring. There were 500 people inside. Among them were also some of his beloved young children. He used a very skillful and extremely clever means to safely get them all out. At that crucial time, he wisely made use of 3 completely distinct carts. Here the carts are used as a metaphor for the Śrāvaka vehicle, the Pratyekabuddha vehicle, and the Buddha vehicle or Bodhisattva vehicle. This is indeed the fundamental principle involved. On the surface, this particular principle seems fairly easy to fully understand, but in reality, if we truly contemplate its deeper meaning, it becomes more complex. There are many profound and subtle meanings. If you have sufficient free time, please reflect on it very thoroughly and deeply. Also, as we carefully study the profound Lotus Sutra together, if you have the precious time available, I sincerely hope that you will also diligently consult the profound commentaries of other truly great masters from the past, and indeed many related and insightful books. As previously mentioned, throughout history it has been observed that this is indeed an exceptionally supreme and profound scripture. From the perspective of traditional Chinese Buddhism, many distinguished scholars have thoroughly studied and written extensive commentaries on it. Although in recent modern times there hasn't been much serious research in this important area, as later devoted students, if we want to study it carefully, at the very least we should understand the literal meaning. At the same time, regarding some of the profound and intricate content it expresses, it is essential to consider how the great masters and venerable scholars of the past have meticulously studied, thoroughly analyzed, and extensively explained it. This is indeed something we profoundly need to diligently explore, deeply understand, and thoughtfully reflect upon. In fact, the Lotus Sutra is, in its essence, as mentioned earlier, the Lotus Sutra of Buddhahood. By relying on it, one can truly attain the unsurpassed and ultimate fruit of Buddhahood, such a supremely extraordinary and profound scripture. Even the highly revered Master Yingguang has clearly said, "The profound and sacred Lotus Sutra is truly the ultimate crown jewel among all precious Buddhist sutras throughout history." It is truly the most supreme and wondrous indeed, the king of all scriptures, a profound and sacred text. Just by hearing this sacred teaching, one can be immediately reborn into the Pure Land, a realm of ultimate bliss, thereby attaining the same exalted level as the highly revered, equal enlightenment Bodhisattvas. The spiritual level achieved upon rebirth is precisely that of an equal enlightenment Bodhisattva, a state of profound wisdom and compassion. Some of the Dharma masters residing in the Han region, when discussing the truly elevated status of Bodhisattvas or truly enlightened ones in the Buddhist tradition, say that between the 10th and 11th stages, the ultimate and final stage is called the equal enlightenment Bodhisattva, and when one finally attains complete and perfect Buddhahood, it is then called wonderful enlightenment, something along those lines, or something similar to that. So, upon future rebirth, one also naturally attains this highest spiritual status, an enlightened state of being. Therefore, it is comparable to the hearing liberation in Tibetan Buddhism. Hearing and immediately attaining rebirth. Upon hearing it, one is instantly reborn. Of course, some people say that so-called hearing is not just hearing with the ears. We also need to truly be able to perceive the profound meaning within it. Only then can it be truly and genuinely called hearing the Lotus Sutra. There is indeed this kind of profound interpretation as well, a perspective worth considering. There are also many stories in the biography of the Lotus Sutra. I very distinctly remember one quite particular story. In the past there was a Shramana who loved reading the Lotus Sutra since childhood, but he was rather slow-witted. For a considerable number of years, he was consistently limited to reading only up to the very first chapter. However, at a later point in time, perhaps due to the onset of declining physical health or possibly some other unforeseen and impactful circumstances that arose, his situation changed. He seemed to mysteriously arrive at the magnificent divine court of King Yama in the intermediate Bardo state after his sudden death. When he was solemnly asked to recount some very important, meaningful stories from his entire earthly life, he said that he had always maintained great faith in the sacred Lotus Sutra and had carefully read it many times before. Because of the tremendous accumulated merit from this devoted practice, it was said that he was supposed to have left this world 3 years earlier, But due to the profound merit of diligently reciting the sacred sutra, his life was significantly extended, and he was ultimately spared from the impending death. So, for all of us truly gathered here today indeed, except for some cases of immediate karmic retribution in this life, or certain fixed karmic results in this very life that are truly hard to escape and to avoid, those are probably very difficult to change. But for most other cases where external conditions cause a shortened lifespan, by relying on hearing, contemplating and practicing the Lotus Sutra, which we are now reading, studying and learning, then it will definitely be the case that since people in this world are quite attached to the continuation of life, many of us are unwilling to leave this world early. So when it comes to the Dharma methods for longevity, in fact, by studying the Lotus Sutra, this is actually a very good Dharma assembly for longevity. Some people especially like to hold longevity Dharma assemblies and receive longevity empowerments. Wealth and a long, prosperous life are indeed the cherished goals of many, many people. Therefore, listening to this profound and deeply meaningful sutra should also prove to be very significant and highly beneficial for us all. This is just a brief introduction I wanted to give about some of the remarkable and extensive merits of the revered Lotus Sutra. One is what Master Yinguang said, as I mentioned earlier, the principle that the Lotus Sutra is the profound classic, the wondrous crown of all sutras. Next, I will talk about what was mentioned just now in the biography of the Lotus Sutra. Today I will continue right from there. Yesterday I mentioned that the old elder's house had already caught fire. The fire broke out on all four sides, not just one, so escaping was also extremely dangerous. Moreover, the raging fire was blazing fiercely and intensely. The entire old house's wooden beams, rafters, and supporting pillars, all of these ancient weathered structures, began to burn quite fiercely. They started to crack loudly and make terrifying explosive sounds. Everything was being completely destroyed and collapsing dangerously to the ground below, including the massive thick stone walls. Usually, when a major fire breaks out, the sounds it makes can be quite terrifying and truly horrifying. The immense heat and destructive force cause the entire wall, its sturdy pillars and massive beams to all come crashing down in a thunderous, chaotic sequence, one after another, with a devastating impact. Such a devastating scene is also extremely frightening and horrifying. Back when the tragic 9/11 attacks happened in the United States exactly 16 years ago, I clearly saw in the disturbing photos that there were so many, I couldn't even tell what kind of ruins they were. In those striking photos, during the powerful explosion, there were all sorts of dangerous things like sharp shards of glass, heavy cement, and broken bricks. Everything was violently falling down. It all looked especially terrifying. Even the vivid videos and disturbing images that were widely circulated were extremely frightening and deeply unsettling to witness. In such intense moments of widespread panic, it was incredibly difficult for many people to find a safe way to escape the perilous situations they found themselves in. Recently, it was widely reported that during the tragic events of 9/11, there was a truly remarkable individual present. This person was a distinguished retired British soldier. Later, he worked as a dedicated security guard over there. At the critical time when these devastating events were actively happening, when the high-rise building was being destroyed by the explosion, one of the main security personnel inside asked everyone in that challenging situation to stay closely together and not to run away in a panic. As for the experienced deputy security officer, he deeply felt there was probably no hope left for their current predicament and, with a heavy heart, told them to leave the dangerous area. He then bravely led the way forward and successfully got the first group out safely. When he went back to rescue the second group, he ultimately perished in the vast, raging sea of flames. It is widely said that he heroically saved an astonishing 2,687 people, a truly remarkable feat preserving over 2,000 precious lives. Some sources say he saved more than 3,000 people. No matter what the circumstances, the very first group he rescued, for sure, he found a way to get absolutely everyone inside, from the very top all the way down, because he knew that there was a crucial and very narrow 15-minute window in between, before the inevitable and catastrophic final collapse. At first, the massive building was tragically hit by the first plane, causing significant initial damage, and then, shortly after, the second plane struck, further compromising its structural integrity. There are different accounts, but it was roughly like that. So sometimes when a person finds themselves in such a challenging situation, whether it's a sudden fire or some other unexpected event, at that critical moment, some individuals are remarkably able to stay very calm and composed. Not only could they manage to get themselves out without any significant problem, he was even able to save many others at that very time. This also happens during significant earthquakes and devastating tsunamis in Japan, where some people consistently remain very composed. They calmly and steadily help rescue others. Of course, this is somewhat related to prior comprehensive education and emergency training, which is crucial. It also might certainly play an important, significant part as well. In any case, what we're clearly saying here is the aging homes of elderly people are also quite dangerous and potentially unsafe. Actually, this important point is described very well and thoroughly indeed. At this very moment, many restless ghosts and various spirits are also making loud, unsettling noises, their clamor echoing through the air. This includes the powerful birds found here, such as majestic eagles soaring high above, and scavenging vultures circling ominously. Even the formidable Kumbhanda and countless other beings are all panicking everywhere, scurrying about in utter confusion. This is because, in this truly extraordinary and unsettling kind of situation, it's quite very difficult for them to escape or get out on their very own. They can't truly get out at all, and it's extremely painful indeed. There are also many ferocious beasts and poisonous insects. They're also actively searching, scurrying around, looking for something. Looking for suitable holes to hide themselves in, gathering together there in large numbers. Especially among them, there is a particularly hungry ghost, commonly known as the Pisacha ghost. The Pisacha ghost also lives among them, dwelling within their midst. However, because its accumulated merit is particularly shallow and limited, it has already tragically died and completely passed away within the confines of this intensely burning house. It has, in fact, already definitively left that specific and dangerous place. This is because the Pisacha ghost in actual reality is quite famously known and exceptionally powerful among the various types of hungry ghosts, making it a formidable entity. It primarily feeds upon people's essential vital energy, their very lifeblood, and so forth. In such dire situations, it becomes a significant threat. In fact, these foolish animals, foolish beings, including hungry ghosts, they all grievously harm each other, voraciously eating each other's flesh and blood. Some individuals may have already tragically died inside the burning house, while others, instead of wisely running away, begin to consume them. They voraciously drink their blood and consume their flesh, including opportunistic scavengers like jackals, specifically the jackals and wild dogs we extensively discussed just yesterday. As for these particular kinds of beings, some of the inherently weaker beings are the very first to die when a devastating fire breaks out quite suddenly. When they die, some of the larger and more vicious hungry wild beasts begin to compete very fiercely to eat their fresh, warm flesh. Actually, foolish beings are just like this. Sometimes in the modern world, whether it's the relationships between people or the complex issues among people, in reality, it's quite similar to this. In our daily lives, we ourselves already face a great deal of impermanence and are tormented by much suffering. Yet some people, instead of relieving the pain and distress in their own minds and bodies, still go on to harm others. This includes cruelly harming other innocent animals as well. Even now, some disturbed patients or some troubled people often do many terrible things to deliberately harm others. This is also a very frightening and disturbing thing. At this time, because of a lot of impure excrement and the corpses of sentient beings, all of these structures are now completely set ablaze, engulfed in roaring flames. Its foul, acrid smoke, the especially pungent and incredibly stinky fumes, billow thickly and ominously into the atmosphere. The entire surrounding area in all directions is already completely engulfed by the inferno, leaving nothing untouched. In fact, in such a burning house, in that kind of situation, the particularly foul and noxious smoke, or perhaps some truly pervasive and unpleasant stench, continues to relentlessly spread without any sign of stopping or abatement. This entire unfolding process is especially tragic and deeply distressing. Creatures such as multi-legged centipedes, numerous segmented millipedes, and various species of venomous snakes are all affected. Are also tragically burned to death in this raging inferno. Some of them desperately scramble out of their holes in a frantic rush. Some might manage to successfully get out, while others simply cannot escape. There are even those unfortunate creatures that are cruelly forced to death inside their burrows. And then there are the Kumbhanda ghosts, who go to eat the decaying corpses of the poisonous insects and centipedes that have just died. They start to slowly consume their own flesh gradually. There are also some hungry ghosts whose heads catch fire. Perhaps it's the hungry ghost's own karma manifesting. There are also many other complex causes and conditions at play here. These unfortunate beings suffer from severe hunger and thirst, as well as all kinds of unbearable pain like burning and intense heat. They are also in great constant agony in this harsh environment. They desperately try to hide, to escape, running frantically everywhere, but many unfortunate beings here have absolutely no way to be truly liberated. Such a house is truly terrifying and utterly dreadful. The house of the old ancient elder that was just mentioned is actually like this, truly and extremely frightening. When we deeply think about it, we realize whether it's the innocent animals inside or the perilous situation of a fire breaking out, including the playful children playing inside, the entire unfolding scenario, the whole and complete situation, is both truly terrifying and a bit deeply worrying. It's also somewhat utterly unimaginable, such an incredibly harsh and desolate environment. It is extremely frightening and profoundly sorrowful. There are many venomous and dangerous poisonous insects and raging fires, countless devastating disasters, not just a single one, but many more. All sorts of profound difficulties, immense suffering, and terrible disasters frequently occur. Misfortunes never come singly. This is something we often say in the world, isn't it? For example, when a fire breaks out, an earthquake happens as well. When a significant earthquake occurs, a devastating tsunami often follows. At such critical times, all access roads may be completely cut off, and all forms of communication may be entirely lost. At that precise moment, people's hearts are inevitably filled with an overwhelming sense of fear. Anyone who has personally experienced or visited a disaster-stricken area truly understands this. It really feels like hell itself has completely descended upon the human world here. In such terrible situations, there may be certain devastating disasters, no matter where it is, whenever there is a major disaster. The disaster is not just a one-time event, it's not singular. Along with it, many other disasters will inevitably occur as well. Sometimes when a family member passes away, there may also be people nearby crying, and all sorts of profound emotions are experienced at that difficult time. All kinds of disasters can happen, so disasters are never just one. There are so many of them. Therefore, we also understand that in such challenging situations, psychological adjustment is profoundly important. Some individuals may indeed go through their entire lives peacefully and smoothly, living smoothly all the way until the very end of their lives. But for some other people, all sorts of unfortunate disasters may occur frequently and unexpectedly. No matter what, we need to fully realize that in this continuous cycle of rebirth, there is actually a great deal of suffering. This kind of profound suffering and widespread disaster is not just one isolated incident. The Buddha, in his infinite wisdom, spoke about this very phenomenon in the Sutra of Compassionate Flower. The Sutra of Compassionate Flower explicitly states, "The prison of birth and death is ablaze with a great consuming fire. Only the pure nectar of Dharma can fully satisfy and ultimately extinguish it." When the immense fire of the prison of birth and death is raging fiercely, what effective method can truly resolve this dire situation? In fact, it is only the nectar, the sweet and profound rain of the Buddha's teachings that can truly bring about genuine liberation. Or, to put it another way, this precious nectar can effectively resolve the deep-seated suffering in our hearts. Therefore, it can ultimately satisfy us completely. Even though we who study the Buddha's teachings, will we die? Yes, we will. Will we get sick? Yes, we will get sick. But as I often say, there truly is a significant and profound difference if we didn't have its invaluable support. Some of us, in our everyday daily lives, no matter if you are incredibly wealthy, immensely powerful, or have great prestige, in the face of impermanence, no one can truly do anything about it indeed. The only true fairness in this world, everyone at some point in their lives experiences suffering. In this regard, everyone is the same. As long as someone is an ordinary person, they will experience suffering. This is certain. Some people might think to themselves, this person is truly very bad. They hope that person will soon encounter all sorts of misfortunes. But actually, you don't need to harbor such malicious wishes. On the surface, they may indeed seem to be doing very well. But in reality, this person also experiences suffering deep within their heart, and physically as well, especially those who appear to be very successful. In fact, what we commonly call success is actually made up of countless hardships, challenging setbacks, and various difficulties. People have a name for it. They call it success. But in reality, the path to success, the story behind it, is not smooth at all, as everyone knows. So when we use the metaphor of the burning house for samsara, this time in the parable chapter of the Lotus Sutra, what is the main parable? There are two aspects. First, if one wants to attain liberation from samsara, it is through the three vehicles of the Buddha's teachings. The vehicles are the best means for liberation from here. Whether you are enticed or not, the vehicles are the most important. The second thing we need to understand is that samsara is like a burning house. this point. We must grasp these two important key points when studying the parable chapter. Even 5 or 10 years from now, I studied the Lotus Sutra. What does it talk about? The third chapter is the parable chapter. The most important part of the third chapter, the parable chapter, is that our samsara is compared to a burning house. People might say, how is possible? How can samsara be like that? Right now we are happy and living blissful life. But in fact, you could also put it this way. Those children were also playing happily at the time. They also didn't know there was a fire outside. And inside, there were so many poisonous insects and wild beasts attacking each other. It was a very dangerous place, but we were all unaware of it. So if we think we are very happy, we are just like those sentient beings just mentioned. There are so many afflictions constantly filling us, constantly entangling us, but as foolish and naive children, we might not even truly notice it. So sentient beings themselves, in their very essence, are likened to a group of very naive, foolish or playful children, perhaps even mischievous, who are unaware of the serious implications of their actions or the gravity of the situation at hand. This is a crucial point that we should deeply understand and internalize. At this very moment, the owner of the house, the master, is standing patiently outside the door, waiting to enter. Because earlier we have already explained this concept in great detail in prose, and now here it is being explained in verse. Some methods are elaborated more in the verses, while others are explained in more detail in the prose sections. Here, the elder of the household is standing just outside the entrance. He distinctly hears some people say, "Your children are all currently inside the house because they are actively engaged in playing various games and enjoyable activities." He sees that outside the house has already started burning on all 4 sides, and these young, innocent, and somewhat ignorant yet playful children are all still residing deep inside. When the elder hears this profound statement, he reflects. He is filled with terror and doesn't hesitate for a moment. In fact, parents are truly pitiful. Whenever their children encounter any misfortune, they will rush forward quite desperately indeed. This is the nature of many sentient beings. So he then bravely enters this burning house. This is what he thinks in his heart, and it's also how he acts in reality. He must do absolutely everything humanly possible to save them completely, and it's definitely best if they don't suffer any serious harm at all. He wants to rescue them smoothly and safely. So, in our world, in fact, the sentient beings in samsara are just like the beings who are in hell or those who are in prison. In this way, they are similar. We often need to care for them as well. At this particular moment in time, the old and wise elder, when he carefully observed the young children still playfully engaged in their games there, he gently and thoughtfully told them, "You should truly know and understand that now there are all kinds of disasters, whether it's fire or calamities caused by animals. There are so many disasters, including evil spirits, poisonous insects, spreading fires, and so on. All kinds of suffering are happening continuously and without end." The wise old elder still spoke gently to the children, offering words of comfort, because they loved to play so much and didn't know about all these terrible adverse conditions in the crumbling old house. He said urgently, "There are many dangerous fires and so on inside here, and these frightening things keep happening all the time. At the same time, there are deadly poisonous snakes, vipers, and scorpions, as well as formidable yakshas, fearsome rakshasas, monstrous kumbhanda demons, cunning jackals, sly foxes, ferocious wild dogs, and also predatory vultures, nocturnal owls, venomous centipedes, and so on. These diverse and often malevolent beings are considered extremely dangerous and pose significant threats to those who encounter them. Moreover, in this burning house, there is hunger, thirst, affliction, great and intense anxiety, terror, and such as, and the like, and so forth. There is so much profound suffering here, countless immense hardships, not to mention when a truly great and devastating fire spreads. Even if there isn't a truly great and devastating fire spreading rapidly, in fact, within the intricate tapestry of our daily lives, there are so many persistent and often overlooked pains that directly, constantly, and relentlessly bind us, affecting us every single day without fail. Let me see exactly where this is mentioned. In the profound 400 verses on the middle way. If ordinary people also knew all the immense sufferings of samsara, then in that very instant, both body and mind would be utterly destroyed. It should be from the 400 verses on the middle way, then in that very instant, both body and mind would be utterly destroyed. What precisely does this truly mean? If we, as ordinary people, also truly knew all the profound pains of birth and death, then in that very instant our entire being, our body and mind, might be completely and utterly destroyed. This is because many of us, as ordinary people, still hold on to the ingrained notions of permanence, happiness, self, and purity, and therefore we may not be able to truly and deeply understand it. In the ancient 400 verses on the middle way, if ordinary people also truly knew all the terrible sufferings of samsara, then in that very instant both body and mind would be completely destroyed. Wasn't there a bhikshu in the past who, whenever he thought of the sufferings of samsara, his whole body would start to ooze pus and blood? Later, when the Buddha saw this was truly the case, in the Vinaya there are sometimes special allowances for certain types of undergarments. In fact, many of us ordinary people truly do not understand the realities of human birth, aging, sickness, and death. Everyone is just like naive children playing around. No one knows when they will die, or when they will eventually leave this world. We leave world, we face consequences of karma. There are many profound truths like this that we ordinary people do not know. If we were to truly realize them, perhaps we would lose interest even in eating, sleeping, drinking coffee, and so on. We might not even have any particular interest in such things as that. Sometimes our inherent childishness as ordinary people is really no different from the children in the homes of elders. There is hardly any difference. When we look at the people around us, every single day they are chasing after fame and profit, constantly busy day in and day out. But in the end, who is it all truly for? What do we ultimately accomplish or genuinely gain? If we deeply reflect on our own individual lives, perhaps it becomes much clearer, from early childhood all the way to the very day we eventually die. We are always busy, but for whom, really? And in the end, when we inevitably leave this world, what truly follows us in our alaya consciousness are indeed many karmic offenses that always stay with us, profoundly impacting our future existences. So we need to deeply understand what this world of samsara is really like, and how it shapes our spiritual journey. These children are ignorant. Even though they hear their father's teachings, as mentioned earlier, a fire has already broken out, and all these terrifying things have already been explained. But because they are so incredibly fond of playing, they simply keep on playing, still having a great deal of fun, staying right there exactly where they are. Sometimes your spiritual teachers have already told you so many times, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the past have already left us such profound teachings. We have listened to the Dharma for many years. We have carefully studied it, and we have diligently practiced it too, but our nature, so very fond of playing, so mischievously inclined and quite stubborn indeed, is something we just can't seem to change. We really are no different from children in samsara. Sometimes when I truly think about it, I realize, the truly great teachers of the past have given us so many profound teachings, and yet if I still haven't awakened, still haven't reflected on myself, I truly and deeply feel quite ashamed. At the very same time, I often wonder, why exactly am I like this? Because sometimes it's really not easy to encounter a spiritual teacher. I saw in Vimalamitra's teachings on relying on spiritual teachers, he also spoke a lot about the qualities of the guru. Moreover, the guru possesses the blessings of the lineage masters. If the guru truly has renunciation and bodhicitta in their mind stream, then even a single profound word or a thoughtful sentence from them can truly transform the deeply stubborn and often hard to change dispositions of many, many people. In fact, the spiritual guru possesses such truly extraordinary and immense energy, special and profound blessings, and unique and powerful blessings of mind transmission. However, we ordinary beings, because our minds are so deeply defiled and clouded by negativities, we still regrettably remain completely unchanged and unaffected by these profound spiritual influences. If a piece of fabric or cloth is gently simmered in a large dye vat after being carefully simmered for a considerably long period of time, even ordinary fabric will eventually be dyed a deep, rich red or a profound, dark black. Yet, even in such a restrictive and challenging environment, under this kind of rigorous and demanding teaching, we still find ourselves unable to soften our extremely stubborn, unyielding, or rigid personalities, which remain remarkably resistant to change. Sometimes we truly and profoundly feel a deep sense of shame and embarrassment. So here as well, even though he had clearly heard and fully understood his father's profound and important teachings and instructions, he still kept playing as usual. Sometimes we are just like this too. No matter how much we've listened to our teachers, some of us have even become monastics or studied Buddhism for a long time, but we still act according to our old bad habits, playing when we want, creating negative karma when we want, not practicing, sleeping in when we want to, doing whatever we want, arguing when we want to argue, losing our temper when we want to lose our temper. If we are still the same as before, the Kadampa tradition says, not even an inch of progress. Even little progress is acceptable. But if we are exactly the same as we were before, even now, if there is not even the slightest improvement, then that is truly shameful and laughable. If we have made even a little progress, that's still something. For example, I've been studying Buddhism for 10 years, and when I first genuinely joined this wonderful community, I had a really quite bad temper, but at least now, compared to my temperament in the past, if there is even a slight noticeable improvement, I think it's still truly worthwhile and incredibly beneficial. But we should also reflect on ourselves. Sometimes just exactly like this situation. At this very moment, this venerable elder is also deeply contemplating within his heart, pondering the profound realization that these children of mine have truly brought me an immense amount of trouble, causing me considerable worry and distress. I don't know what kind of karma it is that my dear children are so incredibly attached, so remarkably disobedient, and so truly mischievous in their playful ways. Even if I want to give them up, I just can't bring myself to do it. When I try to guide them, it really seems like they don't listen in any way either. They've brought me so much trouble and considerable suffering. So at this very moment, the old elder also thinks to himself, there is absolutely no happiness at all in this entire house today. The elder, observing the situation, clearly sees that the children simply find this particular place to be so much fun and enjoyment. That's why some realized people, when they look at it, see that our samsara, even though we stay here for a little while longer, the old elder, he also stays here. But he knows that the entire surrounding area has already caught fire. This precarious situation won't last for very long at all at this point. And inside, the environment is also so unfavorable. He already knows this. Some of us practitioners, some great masters from previous generations, know what samsara is really like. Each and every one of us is just a mere stinking bag of skin and bones, nothing more than that. There's really nothing permanent about it. In the same way, our environment, everything about us, all of it, when the fire of impermanence, the birth, aging, sickness, and all death arises, and also afflictions, I think birth, aging, sickness, and death are mainly like a fire disaster, like a great fire spreading. And within that, among our afflictions, the 5 types related to views and the 5 unrelated to views, as they are divided under the concept of ignorance in the philosophical text known as the Abhidharma Kosha. Isn't that right? They are indeed divided under the pervasive influence of ignorance, correct? Among the 10 fundamental afflictions, there are exactly 5 specifically related to views and 5 completely unrelated to views, right? Yesterday, there was a prominent leader who attended the meeting who was supposed to talk about certain things, but he forgot and asked his subordinates. Then, when his subordinates told him carefully, he couldn't quite clearly hear, so he did this, sometimes listening like this on this other side too. Later, he felt a bit embarrassed and said something else. Then someone next to him said, "You said it wrong," and he felt a little bit awkward in that moment. This fundamental basic understanding should be completely correct. I'm not entirely wrong, right? When exactly was the Abhidharma Kosha text originally taught here? It was in 2003, over 10 long years ago now. Let's talk a little bit more about the Abhidharma Kosha again, if you will. The great commentary on the Abhidharma Kosha, a profound and extensive work. When we first arrived at this sacred place, His Holiness was approximately the same age we are now, in his early 50s, a period of significant wisdom. After we arrived, His Holiness began teaching the 5 great treatises. Some of the Khenpos currently here now are very old now and can't manage anything anymore. Why bother teaching the 5 great treatises? It's just better to focus on practice instead. It's still much better to practice regularly and consistently, but we're not really old yet anyway. Look at the current US presidential election happening right now. Hillary is already 69, Trump is already 70. Both of them are A couple of days ago, Hillary was said to be sick, but it seems she's gotten better these past few days. So being in your 60s, some of our Dharma friends say, I'm already in my 50s, I want to retire. The other day, a student said, I have a very pitiful father. He's extremely, extremely old. I distinctly recall the precise moment when I posed the question, inquiring about his age. The response was immediate and clear. He is 56 years old. Therefore, at this very juncture, we are now discussing and considering the implications of this specific piece of information which has just been revealed to us. There's not a bit of happiness in this house of samsara, this house of cyclic existence. But these young children are always deeply attached to their video games, always playing them, it seems. And they don't accept my teachings. This old elder thinks that actually, if they truly understood in this cycle of existence, even the tiniest bit, as small as a sesame seed, there's nothing worth being attached to or playing with. But they still steadfastly refuse to accept the elder's profound teachings. If they keep on going like this, then I think in the near future, when the fire spreads, it will become extremely, extremely dangerous indeed. Actually, the Lotus Sutra expresses this in many ways. If each and every one of us doesn't practice well enough, then in the future, when we leave this world, just as it's said in the daily teachings, it's like a group of playful monkeys playing inside, but the fire is already spreading all around them. In the same way, sentient beings in samsara are just like this. So he starts to think carefully. He must come up with some effective ways, some truly skillful means. At this crucial point, he tells his beloved children, I have so many wonderful, all kinds of precious toys, and also the most wonderful, truly the very best carriages available for you. There are various goat carts, deer carts, and large ox carts, because these are especially really fun to play with. Nowadays, many truly great and revered monks and spiritual masters in Tibet also genuinely love and appreciate cars. This magnificent car, that sleek and powerful car. So it is quite evident that people who possess a deep and abiding love for automobiles are very much akin to these innocent and enthusiastic children. Today, he thoughtfully says, just outside the main entrance door, observing the world with keen interest and a sense of wonder, I've already put the car just outside, so it's probably best if you come out now, because they've been playing inside all along and won't come out. If the elder tries to pull them out, the door is small. As mentioned before, there are great difficulties. So the best method is to give them some delightful toys, give them things to play with. This is actually the very best possible way. The wise old elder says lovingly, I have carefully made such wonderful, beautiful carriages specifically for you. You can truly enjoy yourselves as you like, have a lot of fun as you wish, and play quite freely. At this very moment, when the young children heard this particular statement, when they heard that there were indeed carriages waiting for them, they were quite surprised and pleased. They immediately and without hesitation rushed out of the building. Every single person present came out, all of them running out together in a unified and urgent manner. And when they reached the open space outside, they all truly realized that the devastating fire and all the other terrible disasters were finally gone. They had completely left that suffering behind them. The elder observed that these children had already successfully emerged from the perilous sea of fire, having safely escaped from the intensely burning house. They were now standing securely on the wide, expansive, and open roads outside. At this very moment, he himself was comfortably seated upon a magnificent lion throne. The old elder was quite interesting too. He had his very own magnificent lion throne. Perhaps he had prepared it well in advance, or something similar to that effect. Then he said to himself, "Oh, I am truly, truly incredibly happy today," because as an elder, he was truly very happy and deeply content when he saw his children happy and joyful. Just like when parents see their beloved children happy and thriving, they themselves are also profoundly happy and filled with immense joy. On that particular day, my mother, shortly after I came back home, said something significant. Today we are the happiest, the most joyful. Actually, nothing particularly happy had happened. But perhaps, seeing that she was truly about to depart, and all her beloved children had already gathered around her, after everyone had finally come together, she just felt so incredibly happy, so utterly content in that moment. But in reality, maybe it's just our human hearts In our hearts, there are certain people we are deeply attached to. For example, if you truly love or care about someone deeply, spending some quality time, sitting peacefully with them or chatting and eating together very comfortably, you feel like that's absolutely the happiest, most wonderful thing in the entire world. So at that precious time, this wise elderly person truly felt that today was absolutely the happiest, most wonderfully joyful day ever. Why did he say that? He said after these children were born, bringing with them a new chapter of joy and responsibility into their lives, that a significant shift occurred. Raising them and helping them grow up was certainly not an easy task at all. Every single child, without exception, was especially foolish, incredibly immature, and profoundly ignorant. They were all trapped in a vast sea of fire. There were also all kinds of dangerous, poisonous insects and evil spirits constantly terrifying them. The great fire was raging violently from all directions, but these innocent children kept clinging to their games and playing continuously. In the end, this elderly person successfully managed to rescue them, truly granting them complete liberation. So he felt this was extremely joyful and deeply satisfying. From the Sutra of Questions by the Excellent Arm. When you see others in distress, feel their suffering as your own. When you see others happy, rejoice as if you yourself are happy. How is it explained in the Sutra of Questions by the Excellent Arm? When you see others in distress means when you witness the suffering of other sentient beings, you yourself also feel distressed, as if you yourself are suffering, as though you are truly experiencing that suffering. When you see others happy means when you see other sentient beings experiencing happiness, you yourself are also happy, meaning you too feel joy. So generally, when a bodhisattva sees sentient beings in pain, they truly feel deep pain in their own hearts. When they see sentient beings happy, they feel genuine happiness in their hearts. A bodhisattva's happiness differs from ordinary people's. What is ordinary happiness? Only when they are happy do they consider it true happiness. They may even feel unhappy when others are happy. For example, today someone else has become wealthy, or today someone else has done very well on an exam. Today someone else has won a prize. If someone wins an award that genuinely takes 10 full years to diligently earn, I might think, yeah, why? I'm still 5 years short, and I feel quite uncomfortable deep inside. So sometimes when we give out prizes or awards, there's a group of people who are especially happy and another group who are quite unhappy. Some people won't even lift their heads, just staying like that the whole time. From the very beginning to the end of the entire special event, some people won't even glance over once. For them, that particular day is a very sad, disappointing day, because they themselves didn't receive the coveted award. But for those with a much kinder heart, they feel truly, genuinely happy and rejoice for others. So sometimes as sentient beings, we truly are. So the elder, for example, has already rescued these children, and he feels immense joy deep within his heart. Likewise, in the future, as we work to truly benefit all sentient beings, no matter what the specific situation, we should learn to reduce our feelings of jealousy and our sense of arrogance. And we should try our very best to learn that when others gain something, whether it's wealth or anything else of value, some of our great masters from the bottom of their hearts have expressed profound joy and contentment. For example, when we hear that someone has become wealthy today, they truly feel this way, so happy for them. This joy comes sincerely from within. If someone is in good health or has achieved great success in their studies, they genuinely think, how wonderful, that's so good, how great. They rejoice from the depths of their hearts. But for us ordinary, truly everyday people, as I mentioned yesterday, in this era of competition, we feel we must compete and try to grab even the smallest resources for ourselves. In the very process of sharing our thoughts and ideas, we often end up clashing with each other. Everyone is fully aware of what this particular era is truly like. We should genuinely feel a sense of happiness. That is precisely what was widely stated at that specific time. At this very moment, these young children clearly know that their beloved father is calmly sitting there. So, consequently, they all quickly run to their beloved father and express their heartfelt wishes and desires to him. They earnestly hope he will still give them 3 expensive BMWs. These are indeed very precious cars, highly valued and eagerly sought after, representing significant luxury and social status, right? They say eagerly, "Didn't you already promise us clearly before?" You already agreed completely. When we first came out, didn't you specifically say you would buy each of us a brand new car? Now we've really successfully come out. We sincerely hope you won't change your mind. You can't keep constantly changing when you do important things. Whether it's a father or an elder, one should always keep their word and faithfully fulfill their promises. You absolutely must give it to us. You can't change your mind now. There was once a generous person, a benefactor, who had promised to offer him a car, but when the appointed time arrived, he unfortunately did not give it. He was so incredibly angry that, shortly thereafter, he went to find someone else entirely. But let's not talk about that story. Otherwise, if I tell it, some people might develop wrong views again. Actually, sometimes we human beings in our daily lives really are like this. I also sincerely hope that we Buddhists, sometimes whether it's about making sincere offerings or providing financial contributions, should pay careful attention. There should always be more pure and unadulterated exchanges of the profound Dharma. Relying on a truly good spiritual teacher is very important. Some time ago, I heard about a particular county leader who was quite familiar with some other individuals, but he clearly stated, the individuals involved in this situation now are very dangerous people. All kinds of people are using Buddhism as a means to go before Han Chinese devotees to amass considerable wealth and solicit substantial donations, and to engage in many illegal and illicit activities. Later, they also came to a profound realization that this is a significant problem stemming from both sides of the issue. On one hand, those pretending to be spiritual teachers are making serious mistakes. On the other hand, we Buddhists ourselves also haven't properly learned how to rely on qualified teachers. Actually, relying on a good teacher doesn't necessarily mean if you truly feel great kindness from your teacher and are grateful to him, if you have no regrets at all and make offerings to him, and it benefits his efforts to spread the Dharma and help sentient beings, then that's acceptable. We have never denied this. Including at our Buddhist Institute, whether it's many of the buildings or the temples, many devoted donors from the Han region have made offerings, and we rejoice in that. But indeed, in this modern day and age, there are many significant problems. So this particular leader told me, and it was quite insightful, that in the future, this kind of thing will definitely keep happening here. During his term, which lasted for approximately 5 or 6 years, he served diligently. Certain incidents occurred and some things were reported. He shared some very important information with me, and I became very concerned as well. I sincerely hope that many devoted devotees from the Han region should carefully observe and discern truly genuine spiritual teachers. As for so-called offerings, on the one hand, for example, as a monastic or a dedicated practitioner, one should consider the implications and purpose of such offerings. Even without receiving many material offerings, one should still even be able to receive the Dharma. In some foreign countries, for certain teachings, if you are just unable to make any offerings, it seems like they actively sell tickets for various events or rent out large venues and such. But in many places here now, we really don't need these things. In such circumstances, it's better to keep things simple. This is especially true for Buddhists, especially regarding the relationship between lay practitioners and spiritual teachers. We need to be clear about this, otherwise at a certain point, I'm quite genuinely worried about what this so-called Dharma will eventually and truly become in the future. There are still many intriguing things to know about this, but I won't elaborate on them at this time. Earlier today, we specifically mentioned the 3 expensive luxury cars. He said quite earnestly, "You already promised us very clearly before, so you should definitely be able to give them to us right now without any delay." Could you please clarify who exactly made this statement? It was explicitly stated, and you yourself confirmed, that you would indeed provide 3 automobiles, as had been thoroughly discussed and agreed upon in our previous conversations. Yes, it was immediately apparent after the children emerged and were present that their primary and overwhelming desire was specifically for those very cars that had been promised to them. They were eagerly anticipating receiving them, and their expectations were clearly set on those particular vehicles. They said, "Well, we have already come out from this particular location at this very moment." You also explicitly promised each and every one of us a brand new, fully equipped car. Now the opportune moment has finally arrived to fulfill that significant commitment and promptly give them to us, just as you pledged. So, they eventually went to their very elderly and respected father to ask for these valuable cars, you see. The elder, he was very much blessed indeed. He had a truly great deal of considerable wealth, so providing the necessary cars was certainly not a problem at all. As for these cars, it's like how some foreign countries nowadays also have some very especially luxurious and quite opulent carriages. For example, in the UK, when the Prime Minister officially visits, they also have them ride in a beautiful carriage for a stretch of the road first. This is one of their traditional customs. Such ceremonial things exist as well. The wise elder carefully took these ornate carriages, which were made from a lot of gold, silver, agate, mother of pearl, and lapis lazuli. All sorts of precious and valuable treasures were meticulously used to craft these magnificent carriages, and they were decorated in a very magnificent way. Around them were sturdy railings, and on all four sides precious ornate bells hung gracefully. There were also golden ropes intricately intertwined. Delicate nets of shimmering pearls were gracefully draped over the very top, and beautiful garlands of shimmering golden flowers hung down everywhere, adorning the space. Silks of various beautiful and vibrant colors were also extensively used as decorative elements and embellishments, adding a touch of elegance and luxury. The entire surroundings were beautifully adorned with luxurious silks of all different vibrant colors, creating a truly magnificent spectacle. Inside, there were also soft and luxurious fabrics. These exquisite fabrics, similar to fine silk cotton, were designed and meticulously arranged to serve as comfortable and supportive cushions. It was like a plush and inviting sofa, providing a cozy and relaxing space where people could comfortably sit and recline inside. And on top of this, there were very delicate and intricate. What does it actually say? Mian. Perhaps it specifically means finest, most delicate mian, but you should definitely double-check how that particular character is correctly pronounced. It seems to mean cotton cloth, a fabric of considerable quality. Just now, on top of that cushion, there was some very fine, exquisitely woven cotton cloth carefully laid out. Of course, this particular textile was extremely expensive, truly worth billions. It was especially clean and pure white, gracefully covering the entire top surface. This is the large carriage. As for the decorations on this large carriage, actually they're quite similar to what people truly appreciate and desire nowadays. The higher-end seat cushions, the comfortable and luxurious bedding, or the more exquisitely designed and opulent interiors are pretty much the same, I suppose. Even modern boats and some other contemporary things are quite similar in their overall design and comfort aspects. This carriage is pulled by large white oxen, and these beautiful white oxen are especially plump and remarkably strong. I've personally seen many elegant carriages in England, Australia, and the picturesque Netherlands during my travels, and the horses pulling them are also especially. It seems like you can't see these kinds here at all. We often see some carriages in Yunnan and Guangxi as well, but those carriages are quite different from the ones over there. There's a very significant and noticeable difference in the ornate carriages and the powerful, majestic horses themselves. These remarkably large, incredibly strong, and especially plump white oxen are also quite prominent and visually striking. Their build is also quite impressive. They are commonly used to pull these very precious carriages. And there are also many attendants, a considerable number of individuals following closely along. It appears there might be a substantial multitude of people, a large and diverse group, accompanying him on this journey or occasion, ensuring his comfort and providing support throughout. Their presence is quite noticeable, forming a significant retinue around him. People often say that when you venture out, you must always bring your loyal attendants and brave soldiers with you. But as I mentioned the other day, having personal attendants with you isn't always truly beneficial. Indeed. For example, when Li Ka-shing's son was unfortunately kidnapped, it was a significant event. I heard at first there were several attendants with him, but in the end there was nothing they could do. It seems they ended up paying over $1 billion, right? So when it truly comes to the so-called attendants in this particular world, it is important to consider, sometimes you see they can indeed protect you, but at other times it's very difficult to do so. Therefore, some of the things that people in this world often say, especially those who are a bit more noble in spirit or possess significant status or are recognized leaders, when leaders arrive, there's always a group that comes ahead of them. They stand at every intersection, not even looking around. But you can't just not look, you have to check your surroundings. Otherwise, if you just stand there like that all the time, like an ancient Indian sage, that's not really good either. If a wise sage is just drawn on a simple picture, it's really something completely else. That's absolutely not acceptable. So as a professional bodyguard, but sometimes attendants can also be a bit like blindly handing things over with their eyes completely closed. That's not entirely correct or accurate either. Whether you're serving a teacher or a leader nearby, or when doing things for other people, you really need to be quite a bit smarter and more thoughtful in general. Otherwise, if someone comes today and you give him a book, and he comes again tomorrow, you give him another book, and then he comes the day after and you give him yet another one. If you've already given it to him 7 or 8 times and you still hand it over with your eyes closed, that's really not quite right either, to be perfectly honest with you. Sometimes you really need to be a bit more attentive. I've seen a lot of truly remarkable people around teachers in the past, and some of them, you can tell right away, are genuinely and profoundly wise. Sometimes when you look at the individuals around teachers or leaders, including those working closely around some successful entrepreneurs, they just continue to do things without truly seeing what they are doing. When you proceed with your eyes closed, you frequently end up making significant mistakes. Therefore, sometimes it is truly essential to pay close attention. I am not specifically referring to anyone in particular, but rather speaking in a general sense. Just blindly handing things over like that without any thought or consideration for the implications or consequences is truly astonishing. Next it says, such a remarkably nice and well-maintained car, perhaps a luxurious model with all the modern features and comforts, has already been generously and thoughtfully given to these fortunate children who will undoubtedly cherish and appreciate this wonderful gift for a long time to come. The children are truly extremely happy. They ride around in their car, traveling everywhere, playing joyfully and happily, enjoying every moment. Before, they used to play with some simple and cherished toys inside their comfortable house. Now they have acquired a shiny new car which represents a significant and exciting change for them. Some people might purchase a broken down vehicle and then proudly declare, now I possess a car. Then they go absolutely everywhere, running completely wild. Free and completely unrestrained. Now that they finally have a new car, they're very excited and happy. Next, the Buddha tells the Venerable Shariputra, I am precisely the same way. Among all the revered sages, I am indeed the benevolent and guiding father of this entire world. All sentient beings, without exception, are truly like my beloved children. These dear children are unfortunately also deeply attached to fleeting and superficial worldly pleasures. And consequently, they profoundly lack genuine and profound true wisdom. That's why the three realms are without peace, like a house on fire. This teaching and its proof is very famous. It comes directly from here. Filled with all kinds of suffering, extremely frightening. In the entire vast three realms, all sorts of intense pain and suffering constantly exist. There is always inevitable birth, aging, sickness, death, and endless worry. Such a great destructive fire continues to burn fiercely, never truly ceasing. It's truly and deeply pitiful. The way of the Bodhisattva says, although samsara is extremely painful due to our inherent ignorance, we are often completely unaware. Although samsara is indeed very painful, because of our profound ignorance and lack of true understanding, we often fail to perceive or genuinely feel the pervasive suffering that exists. Consequently, we are simply not aware of its constant presence and impact. The revered text, The Way of the Bodhisattva, eloquently states, although the cycle of existence known as samsara is inherently and overwhelmingly painful due to our deep-seated ignorance and lack of insight, we remain completely unaware of this profound truth. Sentient beings in their countless forms are tragically and ceaselessly drowning in the vast, turbulent stream of suffering. Alas, how truly worthy of immense compassion and profound empathy they are. It seems that there is such a line in the Bodhikaryavattara. Sentient beings are already completely submerged in the turbulent current of suffering, in the deep river of endless pain. Sentient beings are helplessly drowning in the overwhelming stream of suffering. Alas, how deeply worthy of great compassion. It is truly profoundly sorrowful, because even though we are in samsara and suffering immensely, but we ourselves are completely and utterly unaware of it. Sentient beings are often submerged in such an ocean of suffering, in a river of pain. Sentient beings are drowning in the stream of suffering. Alas, how worthy of compassion. We ourselves don't even realize it. It's truly pitiful. So whether it's the people around us, sometimes we know that every sentient being cannot escape birth, aging, sickness, and death. In this existence, there truly isn't much genuine happiness to be found, nor is there anything truly and profoundly worth celebrating or rejoicing over. However, this is simply the inherent and fundamental nature of samsara, the cyclical existence of birth, death, and rebirth. Everyone, without exception, has no choice but to remain bound within this cycle as well. As it is profoundly stated in the Venerable Sutra of the Essential Collection of All Dharmas, it asks, fools continue to dwell within the endless cycle of samsara. Why is it that they do not feel a profound sense of aversion and deep distress regarding their predicament? Why do we not feel troubled by this situation? Why do we not feel weary and develop a sense of aversion to it? Since we are in a cycle of samsara, why not develop a sense of weariness and aversion? So here everyone often contemplates and meditates on this. When we previously practiced the common preliminaries, reflecting on the suffering of samsara and the preciousness of human life, at that time we had some feelings about it. Everyone truly felt that this is what samsara is like. But if we haven't actually practiced and only speak beautifully about it, then that's actually not quite enough at all, in fact. Even if we speak very well, if it's not present in our hearts. Sometimes those so-called realizations and significant gains are also profoundly about the deep feelings within our hearts, and this particular aspect is very important indeed. Let's stop here for today. It seems like we've been talking about suffering a lot lately. Today as well, it is truly about such fires blazing endlessly. We are also very much in the center of the fire. Let's stop here, right? Although samsara is indeed full of suffering, everyone should still try to stay in a good positive mood. Don't be too unnecessarily miserable and depressed.
Bandharangara Badma Sodargye Bandharangara Badma Sodargye Bandharangara Badma Sodargye